A handout. So good evening, everybody. My name is Yitzchak Pincus, and thank you so much, Gabriel and Tal, for inviting me to come here to speak. It's a great honor. Am I good?
You need to talk through the mic for it to be recorded.
Okay, one second. Let me bring it up. How's that? Is that better? Okay, now we're talking. Okay, yes, so again, thank you so much, Gabriel and Tal. I love the concept of the organization. For many years, I ran an organization called Connections Retreats. It's also the same idea, to bring people together, to really connect through Torah, through elevation, through truly finding who we are as individuals, and just really understanding and exploring the incredible world that Hashem created. So let's talk about a little bit about astrology. So astrology is a little bit complicated. It's one of the very confusing issues of the day. Is it kosher? Is it not kosher? You know, we get these very mixed messages. You know, it says, people say, it says, Tamen ti al Hashem lakecha, you should be honest and straightforward with Hashem, meaning to imply you shouldn't get involved in astrology. Or it says, Ein mazel Yisrael, there's no astrology for the Jews, or the Jews l'malam min ha-mazel, we're above the mazel. So that's on one side, or it's even worse, it's avodah zara, that you're not allowed to do that. So that's one level. So okay, whoa, so what's going on here? We shouldn't do anything, we shouldn't get involved with astrology. Yet, on the other side, we know that we have each month is associated with a zodiac sign, right? And we say Mazel Adar Dagin, right? So in the month of Adar, you see all those signs from right before Purim. There's always a picture of a double fishes over there. That's Pisces. And if you look in Borough Park, if you know the Young Israel of Borough Park, there's a beautiful shul. It's on 15th Avenue and 48th Street. It's 4 stories tall. And on top of the Aron Kodesh, beautiful, huge shul, on top of the Aron Kodesh, you have 12 signs of the zodiac on top, which is, again, a very mixed message. If it's something that's avodah zarah we should stay away from, why would it be on top of the Aron Kodesh? Also, the Svardish shul, in the Lower East Side, the shul also has signs of the zodiac there. And then, even if you look in the Machzer, during Sukkot and Pesach, when we bench Tal, we talk about Tal, right, and Geshem, right, you'll see there's also the 12 signs of the zodiac in the Machzer. Now, ArtScroll went and moved it to the back of the Machzer, but it's still there. You see 12 signs of the zodiac. So it's a very, very mixed and confusing message. I mean, what do we say when people get engaged? Somebody gets married, a new job. What do we say? Mazel tov, right? So that's also very confusing. On the one side, it seems to be part of Judaism. On the other side, it seems to be forbidden. So that's why I decided to write this book, Kosher Astrology, a Jewish Guide to Celestial Wisdom, because there's just so much confusion on this topic. Now the thing is, it really is, the question is, you know, is astrology kosher? Let's put this over here. So the answer, when people ask me, is astrology kosher, I like to ask them, are animals kosher? Not a yes or no question, right? So you have some animals that are kosher, some animals that are not kosher. So really we have to define what's happening here. So the same thing with astrology. So in astrology there are 2 forms of astrology that was practiced for thousands of years, and that was completely forbidden. So one form was something called astral magic. And that's something where people literally worshipped the planets. For example, in the Gemara, it talks about Oivdei Kachavim. They worship the planets. So literally, they looked at the planets as gods, as false gods, and clearly that's idol worship, and clearly that's forbidden. So the Torah speaks very negatively against that. And they added in another element of sorcery, which is also strictly forbidden. So what they did was they would create, the Rambam, Maimonides, goes into great details about this, and he lays out the exact spells that they used to do. They would mix all kinds of, from animals, like skin and blood, and take all different kinds of things at certain astrological times, and create incense and all these different kind of things and statues in order to worship a planet. And once they did that, if they believed that they took the statue and buried it underneath the store of their competitor, the planet would go and destroy the business of the competitor. So it was used to harm their enemies and to benefit themselves. So that's called astro magic. So it was a combination of idol worship and sorcery. And that's completely forbidden. This is the way the whole world believed in this and was practicing it. And so this was the common belief of the day. And that's why the Torah is so strictly speaks very strongly against this form of astrology, of astral magic, which is, again, sorcery and idol worship are two of the worst things you can do in Judaism. So that's one level of completely forbidden. Then there's another type of astrology, which was also for thousands of years, this is how astrology was practiced, is called astromancy. And this is a deterministic form of astrology. So they believe if you're born if you're born with energy of Mars, for example, the Gemara brings an example, that they believe that you were destined to be a bandit who murders people. Like you don't have a choice, that this is your fate and destiny. So if you were born with certain planets and certain energies, it was deterministic. Your personality was deterministic. And the same thing with the transits. If a planet was going to affect you at a certain time, that means that you're going to die at that time. Or that means, like, very fatalistic, deterministic, your house is going to burn down. And so the famous letter to the Rambam, the reason why the Rambam, Maimonides, was so strongly against it, he was not against kosher astrology. He was against the forbidden forms of astrology, particularly astromancy. Because the Jews in France wrote him a very famous letter. They wrote him a letter saying that they had all kinds of prognostications. They didn't know what to do. Is it true? They said, my house is going to burn down. My children are going to die. Like really horrible, terrible stuff. And that's why the Rambam answered so specifically, it's nonsense, you don't have to worry about that, there's no truth to that, it's not how God designed the world, it's not deterministic, we have free will, nobody can tell you that. But you see, even in the Gemara and Shabbos, we have that the Chaldeans, they were famous for doing astrology, and they actually practiced astromancy and also astral magic, the not kosher versions. And they told Rabbi Akiva, the famous Rabbi Akiva, that his daughter is going to die on the day of her wedding. That's the kind of astrology they were used to. So anywhere you see in the Torah, in any kind of svarim, where they're talking negatively against astrology, they're talking negatively against these two forms of astrology. The deterministic, fatalistic one, and the Avodah Zarah one that's part of sorcery. So that's just to clarify what's happening. So we have a very clear, that's not kosher form of astrology, and then we have a kosher form of astrology, which we're going to get into in great detail. So that's step one. The other step is, what the heck is astrology? What can it do? What is it? Is it that, I'm a Leo, so I shouldn't date a Scorpio? Is that what astrology is? Or I love this one, I saw an ad, somebody's looking for a roommate, and he wrote, everybody can apply except for Capricorns. Like, is that what astrology is? So we have, so most people, everybody's aware of when they're born, right? You're a Gemini, today's my birthday, so I'm a Gemini, right? So that's an important aspect of you are, but it's a tiny, tiny fraction of all the details of what astrology is. So that's the thing. So people's encounter with it was usually in the newspapers or horoscopes, so people don't take it very seriously. So that was the two issues, the not kosher version, and then what is it anyway, So that's why it's kind of considered not serious. However, there really is an incredibly deep and powerful form of astrology that can be absolutely life-changing. And we're going to get into what that is. So in my book, I broke it up into 3 sections. So the first section, I really get into the kosher, not kosher, the astromancy, all the different versions, what the Rambam says. So if you really want to see all the sources, that's in the first section of the book. The second section of the book, I really get into what is astrology? What can it do? What can it tell you? How powerful it is? What is it actually there to do? That's the second part. And the third part, I show some of the deep connections in the Torah that's deeply tied to astrology. There's a bunch of things that's very, very wild that literally I fell out of my chair when I read them, and I think you will too. There's really some wild stuff. I'll mention a couple of them as we go along. So we're going to start with the lecture. So the first part, we're going to go in just to show you how deeply tied astrology is to Judaism. It's part of Judaism, it's part of our Masorah, it's part of our heritage, it's part of how Hashem runs the world, and we're going to get into some of those sources. And then when we get to the second side, we're going to talk about what astrology is, what it can do, what deep, incredible things you can learn about yourself and your life, your purpose in this world. All of it is there. It's wild. It's so mind-blowing that when people realize it, like when I realized it and I saw how much it is, I'm like, how is not everybody aware of this? Why isn't everybody doing this? So once you see, you'll get a little taste, you'll see what I'm talking about. Okay, so let's start at the top of our first source. We're going to go through 4 sources from the Torah. My book has hundreds of sources in it. We're just going to go through the 4 primary sources. So the first place that we know, how do we know is astrology is connected to the Torah? We start in Bereshis. We don't have to look far. In the first Sefer Bereshis, the 14th pasuk in Bereshis, it says, "Vayomer Elokim," and Hashem said, "Yehi ma'oros b'kiyah hashamayim." There should be luminaries, the sun and the moon, in the firmament of heaven, lahavdil bein hayoim u'bein halayla, to separate between the day and the night. And one of the reasons is v'haya la'osais. They should be for signs. Now, literally, it doesn't get more explicit than this, that the Hashem created the sun and the moon, they should be for signs. And Rashi is explicit. What kind of signs? Astrological signs. The Ralbag also goes into great detail that it's talking about astrology, and the ending of the pasuk where it says L'may'adim, for the holidays, L'yomim, L'shanim, for the days and the years. The Ralbag explains that also is talking about astrology, that there is a planet and an astrological energy assigned for each time, for each hour, for each day. So this is straight off from the top. We have the Rashi and Ralbag saying that Hashem created the luminaries. One of the reasons is for astrology, straight out in the Torah. Can't get clearer than that. But then this begs the question, why did Hashem create astrology? What is the purpose of it? So let's look at source number 2. This is from Bereshis Rabbah. Umar Reb Simon. Rabbi Simon says, I always wondered if that's where the game started. Simon says, Umar Reb Simon, Ein lach kol eisav eisav she'ein loy mazel b'rakia. We don't have one blade of grass that doesn't have an astrological energy in the heavens, shemaka oisai, that hits it, that urges it, v'omer loy gadol, and tells it to grow. So here, this sets the stage for a very powerful thing, that the reason why Hashem created astrology is to help every living creature grow, from a blade of grass, and of course to human beings as well. That is the purpose of astrology, to help you grow. It's here to help you, and we're going to talk about how that works. At different times in your life, you're going to get certain astrological energies to help you grow, to help you move up to the next level of what you're meant to do. So we have it directly in the Torah and Bereshis. We have a purpose of what it's here for, to help you grow, right? So now let's see if that's true. So then we should see it in Judaism. Why don't we see more people in Judaism in our history? Let's see. So let's look in source number 3. This is a Gemara in Bava Basra 16b. And the Gemara says, it says in the Torah of Hashem Bayrach es Avram Bakol, that Hashem blessed Avram Avinu, the father of the Jewish nation, Bakol, with everything. So the Gemara asks, my Bakol, what does it mean everything? What exactly did he bless him with? So Reb Lezer Hamadai, Reb Lezer from the city of Hamadai says, it's Tagninis Hoisa B'liboy Shel Avram Avinu. Astrology was in the heart of Avram Avinu. Shekol Malchai Mizrach Amarev Mashkim Lepiskai. That all the kings from the east and west would rush to his door to ask him astrological advice. This is the father of our nation. Avram Avinu was a professional astrologer, and all the kings and all the people would come rushing to him to ask him astrological advice. So wow. So now we have it in the Torah, we have the purpose that it's here to help us grow, and we have Avram Avinu being a professional astrologer. And even the Akedas Yitzchak, Rabbi Yitzchak Arama, he lived in the 1400s, he wrote this sefer called Akedas Yitzchak, a magnificent sefer, and he says that that Avram Avinu used astrology to teach the world about God. that this is not random and these are not false gods. It's Hashem who's directing the planets. So Avram Avinu used astrology to teach the world about God. Mind blowing. Okay, so now we have very powerful sources connecting astrology in the Torah, into our history, into our Masorah. Let's take it to the next step. We have source number 4. The Gemara is Shabbos 75a. Umar B'Shimon ben Pazi. Umar B'Shimon ben Levi. B'Shimon ben Pazi says in the name of B'Shimon ben Levi, B'Shim bar Kapara, in the name of bar Kapara, Kol hayodaya lachshav b'kivas mazalas. Everybody who knows how to calculate astrology, the einem machshav, and doesn't calculate it, olav akasav omer. On him the pasuk says, this is a pasuk in Yeshaya. Listen to this pasuk, very strong language. Ves payal Hashem lo yavitai imasa yudav lo yiroi. And the work of God they do not regard, and the actions of His hand they do not see. Listen to what he's saying. That if you don't recognize the incredible gift of astrology that Hashem gave us, you're not recognizing the handiwork of Hashem. And wait, it's not yet finished. Umar b'Shmuel ben Achmaini, Umar Rabbi Yochanan, Minayin shemitzvah la'udam lachshav kis ben zolos. Listen to this word, Minayin shemitzvah. How do we know that it's a mitzvah? On a person, lachshav to kivas mazalos, to calculate astrology, Sheneimar, because it says, Ishmartam, you should guard them, Vasisam, and you should do them, Kihi chachmaschem, Ibnasaichem, Ainu Amen, because this is your wisdom and understanding before the nations. Aizeh chachma b'inashi Ainu Amen. What is this wisdom and understanding before the nations? Haba omer zechishav to kifas and mazonos. This is the calculation of astrology, which is mind-blowing. So it's a Gemara in Shabbos that says that one, if you know how to do astrology and you don't utilize it, you're not recognizing the gifts of Hashem and you're ignoring the incredible gifts of Hashem. And what is the wisdom? Why? How do we know that it's a mitzvah? It's a commandment. It's a positive commandment to know astrology. Why? Because it says this is your wisdom and understanding before the nations, which is incredibly powerful statement. Right? So now we're seeing astrology deeply connected into Judaism. Now the question is, why is it a mitzvah? Like what's okay, astrology is something great, but why is it a mitzvah to understand it? So let's look here a little bit further. And we're going to talk about the Ram. So first of all, let me just clarify. The Rambam, Maimonides, does say that this is talking about astronomy, not astrology, because he was very focused on the not kosher versions of astrology. But Rashi in this Gemara says, Beferish, it's talking about astrology. He's explicit. He gives a whole example. He's talking about astrology. The Ran says it's talking about astrology. The Kedis Yitzchak says it's talking about astrology. Rav Ram Bar Chia. Ram Bar Chia was incredible. He was also an astrologer. He was the great-grandson of the Gaon from Pumbedisa, the last of the Gaonim, and he was a professional astrologer. And he said that the reason why this can't be talking about astronomy, because the people, it says that this is our wisdom. He's saying that the secular nations are much greater than us in astronomy. The issue is they don't understand astrology, how the proper kosher way of astrology, and that's something that we as Jews do know. So that's what it is. But listen to the Ran. We're going to go into the Ran. He's going to explain why it's a mitzvah, why this is a mitzvah. So the Ran says, "Vayadaya lachshav b'kifas mazalas." Why is it a mitzvah in order to know the kifas mazalas? Parish of Yonasan. Yonasan says, "Lefihi shehi chachma mefire imakir gedolos kainai." Because astrology is a magnificent wisdom, and the astrologer recognizes the greatness of the designer. And so numerous people talk about this. Like Ibn Ezra says, there's nobody but like the great astrologer. Nobody can see the great wonders of Hashem like a great astrologer, because your mind is blown when you see how Hashem connected every single person, their whole life, all their things with the planets. And there's only a couple of planets in the sky, but yet it's able to affect 8 billion people in very unique ways. So it's mind-blowing, and you recognize, wow, Hashem is amazing. That's one of the great wonders of knowing astrology, is to recognize the greatness of Hashem. It's wild. So that's step one. And the second part, remember, in those days, it was across the board, everybody, like if they had social media today, that's all they would be showing, worshiping planets and talking about that all the time, all over the place. That was the culture, was worshiping planets and also the deterministic forms of astrology. So that was all over the culture for thousands of years. So he's saying here, so the Ran is saying, so reason one is to recognize that it's a chachmim of fire, a wondrous, incredible creation. And the second reason is that everything is that Hashem created them according to His will, and the planets themselves don't have any power to change. You can talk to the planets till tomorrow; they can't change what Hashem, designed for them to do. Not for the good, not for the bad, because that is something what people believed. If they worship the planets is going to do favors for them. Only what Hashem wants. That Hashem judges and helps people grow and where they need to do based on the astrology. And you'll recognize, so if you're an expert astrologer, by knowing the mitzvah of knowing astrology, you're going to recognize the error that all of these people who are bowing down to the sun and to the moon, how foolish they are, and to understand what idol worship is. It's ridiculous, it's nonsense. And because people believe that they did good and bad, and you're able to recognize that they're foolish. And therefore you'll know, by knowing astrology, by knowing kosher astrology, you'll know how to respond to the apikaris, to the one who believes in the planet. You'll know how to speak back to them and tell them why they're wrong and how they're practicing their astrology. And to the sorcerers who used to do astrology, by knowing kosher astrology, you'll be informed and educated and know how to respond, and you won't be blown away by these famous astrologers who go predict things and say you should go worship the planets, otherwise they'll punish you. People will fill with fear because of this. So by knowing the kosher version, by being educated, it helps you to battle that. So that's why it's a mitzvah. So there's a double reason, right? The mitzvah, first, to recognize the greatness of Hashem, and second, to know how to respond to people who don't know what they're talking about and using astrology all wrong. Okay, so what do we see here? These were just 4 sources, and very powerful, not just maybe. This goes deep into the heart of Judaism, from the Torah itself, from Avram Avinu itself, going into that it's a mitzvah, just really powerful. And these are just 4 sources. In my book I have dozens and dozens, just incredibly powerful, like the Ramchal. The famous Ramchal says that Hashem runs the world through astrology. In fact, the vast majority of Rishonim Achronim directly say this, that Hashem directs the world through astrology. The same way that Hashem directs the sun to heat the earth, right? And that's part, the earth couldn't survive without the sun. That's what Hashem did in the physical way. It's the same thing with astrology. That's how Hashem guides our lives through astrology. They all say this. And I have here just a couple of quotes from just Rabbeinu Bechia. He says that the wisdom of astrology is a great and magnificent wisdom. The Maharal of Prague says, someone who understands the subject of astrology, he should definitely guard himself through astrology because God imbued the planets with energies to affect mankind. This is the Maharal of Prague. Rabbi Bar Chia, who I mentioned before, he was a professional astrologer. He was amazing. I have a whole chapter in my book on him. He says, from my youth until this day, I was taught the wisdom of astrology and practiced it. I delved into it and explored its depth, and I consider myself one who has acquired wisdom and discernment. Just incredible, like just one after another. In the back of my book, I have a list of 70 of some of our greatest leaders and a quote from them, what they talk about. Just really powerful. Listen to Reb Lezer Rukayach. He's also known as Reb Lezer of Worms. He's one of the big, he lived in the 1200s. Listen to his words. There is no wisdom and understanding as marvelous in the world like the wisdom of astrology that is profound in its length and breadth. Okay, this is just a handful, like I said, there's dozens and dozens. So what do we have here? We have something that permeates Judaism throughout our history, throughout our Svarim. It's just full, clear, what a powerful thing this is. This is a tool from Hashem. It's about recognizing Hashem. It's a mitzvah. It's so powerful. and yet because it was mixed in with the not kosher version, people were confused about it, so we lost this information. But it's all there, and honestly, I don't understand. Anybody who's a Talmud Chacham, anybody who learns Sefer after Sefer, the Ramah is one of the biggest halachic decisives of the last 500 years. He wrote a parish on the Shulchan Aruch, and we paskin like the Ramah, like most of our halachas. He also wrote another Sefer called Toras HaOlam. And he goes through how the Beis Hamikdash was designed based on astrology. Like literally, that how many cubic feet things were supposed to be were based on astrology. The menorah has 7 branches, that's based on astrology, 7 planets. The Shilchan Lechem Aponim, the 12 showbreads that we had to put out every single day, based on the 12 zodiac signs. He goes, the sounds that we played during different times, each one was aligned with a different planet. So everything, he goes through that these are all part of the Beis HaMikdash. And here's one example, there's so many. So there's no question, it's blatant. If you go through the book, it's blatant that astrology is deeply part of Judaism and deeply part of recognizing Hashem. So that's a very clear thing. And again, anytime you'll see anything negative, look carefully, you'll see it's talking about the non-kosher versions. Okay, so we dealt with the kosher portion, right? So now the question becomes, what is astrology? What can it do? What can it tell you? What's the point of it? Let's get into that. So you can turn over to the other side. So what is astrology? What exactly can it do? Okay. So first thing to understand is that when you were born, Hashem took all the energies of the solar system, the sun, moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Chiron, which most people never heard of, it was discovered in 1977, we can talk about that later, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, all of those planetary energies based on where they were positioned, the moment that you were born, Hashem put all of that energy implanted in you as a baby. All of the energy of the universe. And you're here for the rest of your life to bring forward that energy of that moment. So understand how precious every moment of time is. There's so much potential there, and it's implanted in human beings, and then we have 60, 70, 80, 90 years to bring forward the energy of that moment. So that's why the moment you're born is such a crucial, crucial time. And think about it, you contain the energy of the universe. That's really wild. So understand, that's what astrology is starting with. And there's a map of this. That's what's called your birth chart. The moment you're born, think of it as a snapshot of where all the planets were, and you can lay out in a chart so you can see where your planets, when the moment you're born, where was the sun, where was the moon, where was Mercury. Now, each planet, we always talk about the zodiac signs in astrology. It's all we hear is zodiac signs. Nobody talks about the planets. The main thing in astrology is the planets. The zodiac signs are important, but it's one layer. Astrology has many layers. So that's one layer. So for example, let's talk about the 5 planets. The sun represents your identity, your overall person. Who are you here to be? It represents the whole person, who you're here to grow into. The moon represents your emotions, your feelings. Right? So it might be in a different zodiac sign. There might be stuff going on, connected planets. Uranus might be connected to your moon. I'm going to get into what that might mean. There's all kinds of configurations connected to every different part of yourself. Mercury represents your left brain, your communication and thinking. So everybody you might have a very strong emotions, or your communication and thinking might have special gifts there. So you might be more intellectual, you might be more into science and logic and thinking and writing and communicating. Or Venus is the right brain, and that's the things that you're passionate about. That's much more broader. It's the intuitive and creative side. So you might be more into Kabbalah, mysticism, or things of that nature. So depending, again, what kind of planets are connecting, what configurations are going on. Each one is showing a different side of you, but they're all here to serve the purpose of the sun, your overall identity of who you're here to be. So all of that information is mapped out for you, for each and every single person. That's what a birth chart contains. So if you look at the top in the blue and white, the birth chart is the astrology of the personality. A birth chart is the blueprint of your psychological makeup. It reveals your hidden strengths, validates aspects of yourself, provides solutions for internal conflicts, clarifies your life's purpose, and is a roadmap for self-fulfillment. So it's mind-blowing how much information that there is there. So I'll give you a couple of examples. So let's say we're talking about, so here's the thing. We sometimes have very difficult aspects, like in childhood we might go through difficult things. It's here to help us grow. It's a superpower, but first, because we don't know how to handle it, it can be difficult. So for example, the planet Saturn. Saturn is all about discipline and restrictions and hard work. If the planet Saturn is connected to your moon, to your emotions, so whenever I see that, it actually hurts me a little bit, because that means that this person did not feel emotionally supported growing up, because Saturn is about restrictions and the moon is about emotions and wants to feel supported. And sometimes it's so very painful to not feel emotionally supported growing up. Now the purpose is, you have to learn, Saturn is a tough taskmaster. It wants you to learn to be self-supporting. Ultimately, it's here to build your emotional muscles, because there will be a point in your life where you're here to do something that's really difficult, that you're going to need those muscles, that emotional self-strength, in order to do it. But that process is not easy and it can be painful. And when I do chart readings with people, and when I see this and I share this with them, many literally start crying, because it's so validating to understand what's going on with them, that they did nothing wrong. This is not something that you did something wrong. It's painful and difficult, but ultimately there's some kind of gift here, what you're here to do. So that can be, there's a few ones like that. For example, Chiron is the wounded healer. That's an area in our lives where we might have some wounding, but through the process of trying to heal ourselves, we're then able to help heal others. So some of this stuff, this is why some people go through really difficult points in their life. There's a process that they're here to work through. Then there's some other planets that are really, really amazing. So for example, I did a chart reading for a person. I saw her Mercury, her communication and thinking, had Jupiter and Uranus connected to it. So what's Jupiter? Jupiter is all about enthusiasm and excitement, and the cup is half full. Like there's nothing that you can't do. It's like really like just enthusiastic. And Uranus is all about authenticity and truth, being true to who you are. Many of us, we have different beliefs, but we don't share them because we're worried how people are going to react if I said this. What are people going to think? It's so not what I'm supposed to be thinking or saying, right? So we keep it to ourselves. Somebody who has a strong Uranus, he or she does not care. I got to speak my truth. I got to be true to who I am. And the best example of this, again, this is not a political statement. Donald Trump, love him or hate him, he has triple Uranus in his chart, connected to his sun, to his identity, to his moon, to his emotions, and to his north node, to his purpose in this world. Hashem designed him to not give a flip what anybody thinks. He's going to do his thing. He doesn't care. He doesn't care the effects of what he says. Again, I'm not talking positive and negatives. He will just speak whatever he's feeling is true. So there's a positive in it that he's speaking his mind. You know that he's saying his truth. There's something authentic, and there's something empowering about being able to speak up and not worrying about society, not worrying what are people going to say, how are people going to react. I'm speaking my truth. So that's what Uranus. So when Uranus is strongly connected to a planet in your chart, that's part of your personality. So this woman, she had her Mercury is her communication and thinking, and she had Jupiter and Uranus. So that's like, wow, supercharged. And Uranus is also quick out of the box. So I asked her, what do you do that's with your communication that's quick and out of the box? So she says that I used to do slam poetry, where you get up on stage and you're challenged. You have to come up on the spot with poetry and somebody else challenges you back. And that's a great example of Jupiter-Uranus. So here's the thing. I can know there's incredible skill set and gift there. I can't tell you what it is. And there's many ways to express that. But something with communication and thinking and quick and out of the box, that's one of the aspects. So everybody has this. One of my favorites, when I see Neptune connected to Venus. So Neptune is all about my favorite planet. It's all about elevation and transcendence and oneness and unconditional love. It's really like just the core. It's a window to the higher world. It's not physical, practical material. It's oneness with God, oneness with humanity, unconditional love, and it's idealism. And when that's connected to Venus, Venus is your intuitive and creative side. That is such a gift. That means you are so talented. You have some incredible creative talent, and you're able to tap into the collective. Neptune is about what's going on in the collective. So if you create something artistic, something creative, again, there's so many ways to express it. You don't have to work hard to sell it. People are going to love what you're doing because you're tapping into the collective. So that's such a powerful form. So when I see somebody has that in their chart, that's the first thing I ask them, okay, wow, do you realize that you have this? What talents do you have? Are you doing something with it already? And most of the time people go, yeah, I know I can do this, but I don't know, I need to make money, I need to go to school. And I'm like, start yelling at them. What are you talking about? That's great, go to school, but you have an incredible gift from God. You've got to do your gift. What are you doing? You have something that's such an incredible gift. So we really have to know what's going on with us. And then again, sometimes we have these doubting voices in our head. If we have Saturn connected to Venus, to our self-worth. Venus is what we value in life, and also our self-worth. And if you have Saturn there, it's knocking you. It's telling you, no, in order to be valuable, you have to work hard. You have to apply. I did chart reading for somebody, and he had the Saturn Venus, and he told me he finished Shas 7 times. I'm like, wow, that's amazing. Saturn is taskmaster, make them work hard. That's fantastic. But you understand, you're not valuable because you finished Shas 7 times. You're valuable because you have a chaylik elikaim mal, you have a godly essence. And you have to believe that b'shvili nivra olam, that you're so powerful, what your mission and purpose, what you're here to do, is so powerful that it's worthwhile, that the whole world was created just for you. So yes, it's great that it pushes you to work hard, to do for others. That's great. But don't connect that to your self-value. Your self-value comes from Hashem. A 2-month-old baby does nothing for nobody. And it's an incredibly valuable human being. So that's sometimes when I see Saturn or Chiron connected, just checking in and letting people know you don't have to prove yourself. Yes, it's great what you're doing. Don't learn Shas, that's great. But that's not why you're valuable. And that's sometimes we get these messages from the planets. It's really helpful to understand what's happening. So this is all just in the birth chart. By the way, the Vilna Gaon says, Chanach lanar al pi darkar, raise your child according to his way, raise him according to his astrological birth chart. That's what the Vilna Gaon says in Farish. That's wild. Again, look how deeply it's connected to Judaism. And it makes so much sense. Stop treating all children. I think what they're doing in schools is horrible. All children have to do the exact same thing at the exact same time. You can't, you want someone to sit still. This guy is Aries and has Uranus and Jupiter. Do you expect him to sit just like a Taurus? A Taurus can sit still for 6 hours. An Aries with Jupiter and Sagittarius, that's torture for that kid. Recognize who your children are. Recognize who it is. Okay, so that's just the birth chart. There's so deep, there's so much information, just incredible. Then there's the development chart. These are the transits at different points in your life. So the birth chart shows you your potential, what you're here to grow into. And it's an unfolding process as we grow. At different times in our lives, the energies in the sky, Hashem sends the planets, the energies in the skies to connect with the planets in your birth chart. So for example, if the planet, what we just spoke about, the planet Uranus, right, which is all about being authentic and true. And I tell couples, especially, married couples, if you're having a transit of Uranus connecting to your sun, to your moon, to your Venus, it's really important. You got to sit down and talk to your spouse beforehand, to understand. Because Uranus is all about being authentic and true to who you are. And sometimes we have these agreements that we create in marriages. Okay, I'm going to do this, you're going to do this. And okay, I might be somewhat resentful of some of my duties, but it's my responsibility, I got to do it. When Uranus comes around, we no longer can do that. We have to renegotiate our contract. It's ready for us to take the next step. So in the book I talk about how Avraham Avinu may have gone through Uranus transit when Hashem said, Lech lecha ma'artzecha ma'ladetcha mibeis avicha. Leave your homeland, leave your father's land, and I will make you into a great nation. It's a time of individuation. It's a time to really step into your power. So if this is hitting you at a certain time, you have to be open to really exploring life further, to really not being stuck in your rhythms, in the things that you're used to, but really opening it up. By understanding this, you can really prevent problems. Because, it's very wild when I do chart readings for couples. If I get to them before it and help them understand what's happening and say, okay, this might be a hard time because, your husband's might want to go racing cars or do different things to really explore who he is. This is a time for you to support him. It's going to be more difficult for you, but it is a time for you to support him because it's only going to last for about 9 months to a year and a half. I can give you the specific times and dates of that. It happens about once every 22 years, so you don't have to worry that much about it. But it comes around, it keeps on happening. And so, it can help you to understand what's happening and things. And the thing is, it's about bringing a person back to the middle. He might go a little bit extreme during this time, but at the end he'll come back to middle and have a more balanced thing between duty and responsibility and being an individual and taking care of yourself.
So what's commonly referred to as like a midlife crisis, is that
so many times different planets can be that, but this happens at all different times in our lives. But yes. So that's Uranus. Then sometimes there's Neptune. But not only that, because when Uranus comes into your life, you learn wild things. So for example, for me, when I had Uranus connected to my sun, that's when I discovered astrology. Because Uranus is about out of the box and, speaking your truth. The whole world thinks it's woo-woo and crazy. And I went and wrote a 500-page book on astrology, and I'm an astrologer, a Jewish astrologer, proud, tall about it. So that's yeah, thank you. So it was discovered during a time of Uranus. That's what the strength that Uranus gives you. So if you have, let's say, Neptune is all about elevation and inspiration. So remember I told you about somebody who's born with it. They have that creative ability their whole life. But each one of us, at a different point in our lives, will have Neptune connecting with our Venus. We'll have Neptune connecting with our Mercury, our communication and thinking, with our Sun. So when I had Neptune, it happens once in 40 years. When I had Neptune connected to my Sun, that's when I wrote my book. And literally, it's incredibly inspiring time. And I have to tell you, I'll be very honest. When I read my book, I'm like, who wrote this? This is really amazing. I don't feel like I wrote it. I don't know what happened. Inspired, Hashem gave me the ideas. It was just like I was a messenger just to write out the inspiration that was happening. That's the ability of Neptune. So we just have to be open and ready for it and really can fulfill. And I have to tell you, Neptune connects to our Venus. That's when it feels like our dreams are coming true, when who we are is coming. Right now, I have Neptune connected to my Venus, and that's when my book came out, that's when I'm going on all these podcasts, and that's when it's literally wild how my life is literally aligned with these energies, and it's so amazing, yes?
But let me ask you, did you realize if Uranus was connected to the Sun? I think you said before.
No, I had no idea. That's the beauty of astrology. That's why it wasn't like, okay, if I know it's coming, then maybe. I looked back in my life. I went back to my entire life and I marked out every development of my life before. I found out about astrology in January 1st, 2009. So everything, for 35 years before that, I went, and it's unbelievable. I had all of these transits, all of these developments in my life, and this is true for everybody. It's wild. So I'll give you another example of Neptune. This is one of the most powerful things. There's transits and there's something called progressions. These are once in a lifetime when Neptune is going to connect with your sun. So there's a transit, it's once in 40 years, and then once in a lifetime also. And Neptune again is what? Is idealism, inspiration. Guess who had this once in a lifetime Neptune sun? Martin Luther King, when he gave his I Have a Dream speech, he had his once-in-a-lifetime son Neptune. So what was that speech? One of the most famous speeches in American history. I have a dream that one day my children will not be judged by the color of their skin, but rather by the content of their character. Such powerful words, all about getting into the essence of somebody, idealistic. It has all the attributes of Neptune. Even the name, I Have a Dream, right? That's also very Neptunian energy. And he gave the most famous speech in American history during his once-in-a-lifetime son Neptune. And I'm like, doesn't everybody want to know when they have their once-in-a-lifetime son Neptune? Who wouldn't want to know this? Or if you have once-in-a-lifetime son Pluto. Wow. Pluto is all about transformation, death, and rebirth. Pluto is the caterpillar transforming into a butterfly. So this is another thing, because the chart is about your potential. And people think, okay, I know myself, whatever age, I'm 30, I'm 25, I'm 30, I'm 35, I know who I am, I know. No. If you didn't fully understand your chart, if you're not fully connected and conscious, there can be a whole other side of you that you're not aware of. And that's one of my favorite things to share with people. That's what Pluto does. If you tell a caterpillar that it can fly, it looks at you like you're crazy. I need 28 legs just to walk. I've never flown in my life. Don't tell me I can fly. But yet, it goes through a process, not an easy one. The body liquefies, it turns into a chrysalis, but when it emerges as a butterfly, and it can fly. So Pluto is all about empowerment. So I'll give you an example. Javier Milei, the president of Argentina, he loves Jews. He says that he would convert to Judaism, except he can't keep Shabbos right now because he's president. But he's just an amazing human being. And he was a member of parliament. Nobody took him seriously. He is, a big character. Nobody took him seriously. He had his son Pluto, and he transformed from nobody into one of the most powerful figures in Argentina history. He's changing the whole monetary system. Really powerful. Mike Johnson, speaking of the House, he was a one-term congressman. He got a transit of Sun Pluto, and he transformed into the Speaker of the House, one of the most powerful positions in Congress. So literally, everybody goes through this, and this is literally when you're ready, that the promise of your birth chart, all the gifts and abilities are ready to come out. So in the book, I talk about how deeply tied it's to the Torah, that Yaakov Avinu was going through one of the darkest times in his life. Esav was chasing him to kill him. And the Torah says that he split his family into two machnas, into two camps, so just in case that Esav kills part of his family, at least some will survive. That's a pretty dark time in a person's life, an apocalyptic time. And sometimes we go through really difficult times. And what does the Torah talk about with Yaakov? That one night, he was out in the field and he was battling with an Ish. And he explains that this Ish is a malach, an angel, and he battled it with him all night. It was a difficult battle. In fact, this malach injured him. He injured his thigh. That's why we don't need to get hanasha. But in the end, he overcame. Yaakov won. And in the morning, he told the malach, give me a blessing. And what did the malach tell him? No longer will you be called Yaakov. No longer are you this individual person who you knew as Yaakov. Now you're going to be called Yisrael. Now you're the father of the Jewish people. It's a transformation of who you are. So when you go through this dark night of the soul, you transform into this powerful new person and a whole new role of what you're here to do in your life. And then what happened? What did the Torah say? He met with Esav, there was no killing, everything was peace. All your old problems go bye-bye because you're not the same person anymore. You're not putting out that energy in the world anymore. So this is a major transformation that Yaakov went through to step into his power. And this is something that every single person does in their lifetime through different times in Pluto. You can see exactly when, exactly the year, exactly the date of when this process. Again, it's not predictive. It won't tell you what kind of process you're going through. It's not going to tell you what you're going to emerge as. But we can look at your chart and see what some of your gifts are. And if it hasn't yet emerged, we can see that it's very likely through this process, if you're open and ready for that change, that's when it's going to emerge for you. So it's incredibly powerful. Again, so this is the birth chart, and these are the timing of your life. And so, just for that, I created, these are called roadmaps. And these are 55 to 65 page books, personalized books about your life. So you would give me your birth information, and I would create all the dates. One contains 40 of the most powerful, transformative times in your life, and it explains in detail what each of them are and what they're here to do, what energy is here to do. And the other one is transits that shows 100 dates in your life from when you were born, from age 0 to age 90, exactly when these transits are hitting your sun, when it's hitting your moon, what it's here to do, when is Uranus connecting it, when is Neptune, when is Pluto, all of these energies. So we shouldn't walk through life not knowing what's hitting us. Like all these things are happening. Why is this happening to me? What's going on? It makes sense. Life makes so much sense. That's why it's a mitzvah lachshav kifas hamazal. So you see that Hashem has a plan for your life. It's so clear once you understand the framework, once you understand your process, once you understand what's going on for you. It's so clear and so powerful what you can learn from it, what you can do, and that Hashem is running it. Hashem loves you. Hashem wants you to succeed. Hashem wants you to fly. He wants you to flourish. That's what Rabbis Rabbah says, that every blade of grass has an astrological energy urging you to grow. That's what you're here to do. So powerful, and it's all there.
Individual.
Yes, that's what's mind-blowing. There's 8 billion people all the time. Hashem, how did you do this? I'll give you a perfect example. My book, Kosher Astrology, I have an askama from Reb David Cohen Shlita. He's a big paisek here in Flatbush. He's 92 years old. 92. He's a couple of decades older than me. And, he's so nice, so amazing. Just really, he wrote a very beautiful thing about the book. After I got his thing, I looked up his birth chart, I looked up his date, and I saw that so there's another thing, we're about to talk about the couples chart, where you can take one person's chart and overlay a second person's chart on top and see how they're affecting each other. It's again very powerful for dating, for relationships, for marriage, very, very powerful. But you can do this with anybody. And so I put his chart and I connected it to mine. So every person has a north node, which is a purpose in this world, what you're here to do. So in my north node, his chart, his planet Saturn was connecting with my north node. And Saturn is all about authority. So his authority was connecting with my purpose in this world, and he's the one who gave us Skama on my book. So yes, it's just wild. And I'm thinking, wait, he's a couple of decades older than me. So Hashem, he was born in 30 years before me. Hashem at that time arranged the planets in the sky, and 30 years later when I was born, arranged my planet's north node that when we meet 50 years later when he's 92, that he's going to have this huge impact on me. And I'm like, wow, do you understand? Every major person in your life who impacts you powerfully, there's some type of powerful connection, and all of it is calculated by Hashem. Just wild. Just the more you look into it, again, that's why it's a mitzvah, because you recognize, wow, Hashem is amazing. So not only that, even the difficult stuff, even the painful stuff, it's not meaningless. It all has purpose. It's all part of the plan. It's all here to build your muscles. It's all here to turn you into an Olympic athlete. It's just incredibly, incredibly powerful. Oh yeah, just another Neptune Mercury. So this is another famous person who was born in his birth chart with Neptune Mercury. Again, Neptune is elevation and idealism. Mercury is his communication. That means he was born to bring some kind of message to the world. Neil Armstrong, the first person to land on the moon. What's his famous saying? One small step for man and one giant leap for mankind, right? So that thing was such an inspirational statement. The whole world knew that statement, really impacted the world. So that's what he was born to do, to share that information. So he had that in his birth chart, and he had Sun Pluto, the incredible transformation empowerment at that exact timing in his life when he made that statement. Wow. So it's just wild what you can see exactly in people's lives. It's just so many, it's nonstop. I feel like books and books and books can be written just about each person. And this is all Hashem timing everything out and planning everything out. Just wild.
You only have access to certain things. Like, he wouldn't have said that statement if he landed on the moon a few years before.
Hashem designs everything. That's another thing. The timing of our life is not up to us. I started writing my book, and it was supposed to take 1 to 2 years. Mosaic Press told me, within 1 to 2 years, you're going to be out. It took me 5 years. Why? Because Hashem wanted the timing. This is the exact right time it's meant to come out. In fact, I had once in a lifetime Sun Saturn. Sun Saturn is hard work and your authority emerges. Literally the day when the boat with my books arrived in the USA was the day that I had this once in a lifetime Sun Saturn. I'm telling you, my life is just blown a million times over, and not just me. Whenever I do this for anybody else, their lives also, everything is laid out. There's a reason why Gedalia Fenster, I did his chart reading for him. He said it was an MRI of his life. It fit him like a suit, he couldn't believe it. And he's sending me people all the time. He was just blown away. I'm blown away. Everybody should be blown away. And this is Hashem, the mitzvah lasha. This is Hashem who created all of this. This is Hashem's amazingness. Anyways, thank you very much. Now we'll do the Q&A. I'm happy to answer any questions. Yes, you had a question?
2 questions actually.
Sure.
So this is all predicated literally on the date and time of birth.
Yes, so the information that I would need is your month, day, year, and your exact time of birth. By the way, all American birth certificates should have it. If not, you can order one, and it will give you your time of birth and your city, state of birth. That's all the information I need, and everything else we can get. Yes? I'm sorry?
It could be dangerous if someone becomes obsessed.
So anything you become obsessed with is dangerous, yes. Moderation in everything. That's what the Rambam says, yes.
Even just know, like, even knowing, like, first of all, like, when do people start planning their babies at a certain time?
So that's what I'm saying. Hashem runs the world. So I never look at, I'll give you an example. I'm very careful about this. I don't say, oh, which day should we have this speech and lecture? I didn't plan it out. I was like, okay, let's figure out a date that looks in the calendar. I didn't look at it astrologically. It was always afterwards I look at it. And guess what? Right now in the sky, Jupiter just entered Cancer, so it's 0 degrees of Cancer. It's exactly conjuncting my Mercury's, my communication and thinking, and it's squaring my MC, which is my public life. So look at that, exactly. So trust Hashem with the process. Don't think, that's the thing. We don't know how things play out. Just trust Hashem, but afterwards you can see it very clearly. Yes?
Yeah, so what more can we do to implement this, excuse me, into the shidduch process? Because I feel like we have a shidduch crisis and everyone's flying blind. But using astrology will open up everyone's eyes and be able to see, like, hey, this isn't really a match for someone. It would save so much time and so much heartache. I really think there's a place for it.
Okay, so that gets a little bit counter.